So welcome everyone. This is the front-end product analytics thing. So what we want to do with this meeting is basically go over everything we did since the foundation of the group regarding front-end. So in the agenda, I listed out a few things like for context, basically, like trying to understand where do we come from. The first thing I linked was the first POC or even the first sample of work we had here. This was authored by Tim on around July, at the start of July. You can see that there was this demo on a sync meeting that we have, and this POC is like a lot of code basically to make sure we have a Jitsu implementation. That was that's what we are still using now, and it covered the tracking, getting data from multiple sources, and this was basically getting data from Jitsu directly and also from Postgres in the example, and it also allowed a few data transformation that we didn't go a lot into detail there on the demo, but that it is a possibility. Then ClickHouse for the storage and Cube for the BI. All of the implementation on that POC MR is basically hard coded, so it's easy to skim through. So yeah, that's the main base of context from our work. It also introduced the idea of onboarding that Rob is going to be talking about in a minute. Onboarding being basically a configurable product analytic insight. That's basically that you give some information about what do you expect from tracking, and then we take it from there and give you a personalized experience. And I put it on quote because in our first iteration is going to be somehow static. And the other thing that introduces is the idea of dashboards, and basically what I'm going to be talking about further. And it is powered by the query capabilities of Cube.js, and we get that data directly from the front end on that POC for counters and chart data. We also talked there about funnel analysis, for example. Like there are a lot of other as a POC. It was more of an investigation, researching work. So if you go through the demo, you're going to see like other uses, but context and chart data are like the things that are most closely to our hands. Then we have the first, let's say, formal POC of dashboarding. It is closed. It never got merged, right? This one. Let me confirm. Yeah.
Axel, can you please share your screen? I think it would help for the recording also if people following along can see the document. Thanks so much.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Sorry. So yeah, I was talking about the dashboarding POC. This is we did with what I basically did was to base on the POC that Tim did, and added a few components that are pretty similar of what we have now, and using. Oh, sorry, I went to the. Yeah, we were handling the idea of multiple dashboards there. If you see the screenshot, we had like this default dashboard and a button to add new dashboards and charts, and of course all of this was mostly empty design without any actual functionality. And one of the highlights was to add in grid stack, that basically for making this dashboard view editable. Now this is with edit mode turned on, and you will see that it is pretty similar to Sisense with the dotted background, and we borrow a few things from there. Because the first idea was to have a solution similar to Sisense. That was our let's say inspiration, that it was mentioned a lot of times when we were started working Then closest to now, we have the dashboarding foundation MRs, to put a word on them. That was based on another POC we had and in this time we get data directly from Cube using that hard-coded integration that Tim did on the first POC. And if you go through it, you will see that it runs a couple of queries. Let me open it. This goes directly into master. That's why there are a lot of changes, but the highlight is around here, where we, where is it? Here, where we query the data, and then we pass the data through all of the children that end up rendering the chart. And this is basically what it has. It is not live data. It is not live, but we have it there. We also introduced the first dashboard definition that, again, looks pretty similar to what we have now. And beside the metadata, we used the word charts before. Now we use widgets. And the main structure is, well, an ID for identification, of course. The dimensions, this is all related to grid stack. Basically, where are we going to put this chart at that time? And the rest of information to feed the data, to feed the query runner. And as you can imagine, these props that we pass here were used to in a child component to actually get this, pass it to Cube and get the data. We decided to split that work into two parts. The main dashboard structure, the basic, sorry, that's, if you go to the EMR, you're going to see that we only have like basically defining the road, creating an empty element, an empty page. Where is it? Yeah, this one, I mean, doesn't have anything at all. And Rob complemented it with the actual grid structure.
Yeah, so
you can see it.
Yes, this is adding the base structure to be able to generate widgets, which we haven't started building yet. That's next on the list, is actually make a widget. It's got a dummy widget in there for now.
Mm-hmm. I believe we have we have a screenshot. Yeah, this is what Rob is saying. Like, we only have a dummy widget, and we did this. Rob and I, we did this review of actual usage, where we went and tried to feed this MR with live data and with real data, and well, you can see a video there. So in this case, we moved out from multiple dashboards, and we only had like a single one. You can see that we don't even, although we use the word dashboards in plural, we don't have like several dashboards. We only have a single one, and we introduced the name widget. And I also link here an issue in which there is this discussion about the actual structure of the dashboard based on the one that we saw on that previous MR. So if you go to it,
that's the structure we've got in the widget space at the moment. Obviously, we've just had that big conversation around file-based schemas. Mm-hmm. So eventually, this is going to morph into that, whatever that ends up being. But for now, just so we can progress forward in a way that also optimizes signed off on as a better initial basis. This is what we went with. And this issue is to then lead on to actually creating a cube-based widget. The first one being a line chart is the main aim. I don't know who's doing that. I'm busy doing UI stuff, so I know it's probably going to be either UX or Yuyan. I'm not sure who. I've asked Dennis to tell me, and he hasn't said anything yet. So feel free. It's currently assigned to me, but feel free to take over. at any point that you feel like if you get assigned the work, I don't know who's doing it.
Yes, that's right. Thank you, Rob. And the discussion is, and yeah, I wanted to thank you, Rob. Like you have been moving the discussion ahead, so that's it's pretty refreshing to read all of your insights and actual answers to those important questions. And do you want to take it from here, Rob? Until
yeah, sure. Yeah. So next point is to link to the documentation on the shared dashboard component, which is under View Shared folder. Because Optimizer is going to make use of it. It's under EE at the minute because all of Optimizer stuff and all our stuff is under EE. So it's Premium Plus essentially. That has I've just had the left-hand navigation for that being merged. So that will show up under the FE guide left-hand nav soonish once that's all redeployed and stuff. But for now, it's only accessible directly through the link, which explains how to set up the dashboards as they are if you wanted to create your own custom dashboard right now with what we've got. And just to point out, we all cube-based queries for the widgets need to run through our cube proxy. This is because we need to add security contexts to the query, and the easiest way for us to do that and get a token and all that sort of stuff is to do it in the back end, where we can make a direct connection with the cube instance rather than having to run all the authentication processes, checking that you own the project all in the front end. That's a pain. Much simpler to do it in the back end where we know where we have all that information. So you send the query to Cube, just it plugs into the Cube.js the exact same way as the conventional Cube.js endpoints would. So you just plug in the GitLab Cube instance and it handles all the Cube stuff how Cube would and returns what Cube would too. So the Cube.js library just works as is.
Yes. And sorry, guys, it seems I have a small urgency. I might need to run in a couple of minutes. Sorry.
That's right. Do you want me to take over the screen share?
Oh yeah, for sure. Let me go through all these two things and let me jump over to here. So and the other two things that I wanted to mention are that we had a previous product analytic page before that was basically on Project Monitor, and it was never used. It was pushed forward but never actually used, so we ended up removing it. We have this NMR with a lot of deletions that you can go through and see, but it was basically like an initiative that it seems never saw actual light. And the other is that we are also talking about the where to put our menu item for analytics, and we have a lot of interesting discussion here. We don't have an actual solution for that right now, and we do have a few proposals that might move forward, but this is not ready for development yet. Although Dennis told me that I might just push forward and publish something, publish an MR and get the discussion there as a bias for action. But yeah, those are also related to this. So I'm going to stop sharing. I don't know if you have any question, like a specific question, before leaving.
I just want to say, in terms of the left sidebar, the reason it's complicated is because multiple groups are involved, especially Optimize in terms of analytics in general and how that's all structured in the left-hand menu, plus the actual left-hand menu and what goes in it is owned by foundations. So not only do we need to get sign-off from foundations that this works on a UX, UI sort of foundational GitLab product level, but also needs to work within the aims of Optimize as well as us. So there's a lot of discussion and trying to figure out the best path forward between all that. But yeah, we might have a way forward where we can just add product analytics just somewhere so we can get the dashboards on the page, even if we can't add the full structure that we want to add just yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, no questions from my side. Just to say, I think the view of the history and the evolution of it's very helpful to get an idea of where we came from and basically how that influences our thinking going forward. And yeah, also super useful to see the discussion regarding like how the widgets are constructed via that configuration and how that ties back into the meeting we had before this call about the whole schema of that, where we're going to save it, etc. Yeah.
Well, guys, I'm going to drop. Robert, I put you as a host. Hopefully I can leave without issue. So I'll see the recording in a bit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool.
Hey, kept on recording. Great.
Sweet. I will take over sharing. Just to go through the final few points. First iteration is to add the internal handbook. We have an MR ready to go. We just need the infrastructure details, which we don't have yet. As soon as that is ready to go, we can progress with that. We'll just need to plug that into the details into the MR / the environment variables of the Hugo deployment. So uses internal handbook uses Hugo to do all that sort of stuff. In terms of any other things to note is technically product intelligence is going to take this over, but they don't have a front-end engineer. So for now, we own the JS SDK that's going to be used to connect the user's products with our analytics platform through the Jitsi implementation. There are issues in that JS SDK project that we can work on as a group. Things like enabling, is it anonymous mode by default? Something like that. It's, I think it's not anonymous. It's a mode to reduce the amount of tracking we do by default, which we don't need all the details, and it's a bit more secure. Things and various other issues that you can take a look at. Deployment is done manually via npm publishing. You have to be added to the GitLab group and you have to have a npm account. If anyone does do work and needs it deployed and doesn't have that, or I had to go through Tim to get that, or if you just want me to do it, I have full publishing rights so I can do it, but we really should automate that at some point because I have to version bump our SDK manually and do a git push to master for it, which isn't ideal. And final points, big discussions, exporting of data, and figure out, as we discussed in the previous meeting, in the previous section meeting, file-based dashboard schemas. So front-end input is welcome on all of those points across the group. Yeah, so that covers history and what's going on right now. We should probably look at the board though, shouldn't we, at what we've got.
A question that I have regarding the topics that we actually just covered is, do you know why the decision was made to drop from multiple dashboards to a single dashboard?
Yeah, the answer to that is first iteration. Just get a dashboard up with a widget.
Keep it simple.
Specifically two widgets, audience and sessions, which is users over time and sessions over time, essentially. Those are the two that we just wanted to get up. It's a proof of concept that using the internal handbook live data, we can show on a widget, on a dashboard, the users over time and the sessions over time. And that proves the concept that the SDK works, that the infrastructure works, like the dashboard itself works, and then we can iterate over that over time. There is an MR
is the idea that in the future we will again support or is the future vision to have multiple dashboards? Because I can imagine that being useful to users.
Yes.
Okay, great.
And there's actually an MR.
Perfect.
That Tim has been working on, which involves also the schema discussion, where he's using routing and dynamic imports to import specific dashboard configuration to then render a dashboard, which we're in discussion. I'm in discussion with now. It is jumping ahead a little bit, but it's something we need to do, and also contributes to the wider schema conversation that needs to happen as well, making sure we cover that.
Exactly.
We do want that to happen.
I was just about to say that that's probably the biggest decision we need to make now, is making sure that our schema supports multiple dashboards, because that's going to be a major breaking change if we suddenly decide to do that.
Multiple dashboards, and on top of that also just shared widgets, as what was discussed, being able to take a widget and use it in multiple different places, which is what Tim's MR does using JSON at the minute, but we can, that needs to be expanded. I don't know what the end result of that's going to be.
I guess the structure that I'm assuming it is probably just an array of widgets, and then each dashboard makes use of those widgets.
It's it's a JSON object based off the schema from the dashboard's widget structure MR, and the cube query rendering widget issue. So based off of that, there's a widget file which contains a widget structure, which defines what sort of data it uses as title and its grid stack dimensions. A few other things, customization options, line colors, that sort of thing. And then those are then added to imported into the JSON file for each individual dashboard, from what I can gather.
Okay. Yeah, anything else? Also, I think we can stop the recording and go over the board if we want.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Spoke about the SDK. No, I think that pretty much covers where we're at currently in this smorgasbord of front-end related stuff. It's in the notes. I realize I haven't raised it. I am working on the onboarding flow, for the creating UI onboarding flow. There is a link in the document to the flowchart of what I'm building, essentially, that I'm converting into UI. So if you feel like have a look at that, feel free. And anyone else, it's my guiding principle to what I'm building and how it's working.
Yeah, I think if you want to, you can quickly share it, or I can quickly share it my screen just as we're talking over it for the sake of the recording. But I had a look at this when I joined. It seems sensible, seems nice. Once again, thanks for putting walls of text into something visual. It really helps me. And I think it helps basically everyone consuming it.
Yeah, the number of times I've referenced this in issues.
Yeah.
This one and the I have one for the back-end process as well.
Yeah, so stuff like this is super helpful. So do keep it up, and thanks for
All
that.
made in Figma. Highly recommend it. Super easy.
Well,
barely an inconvenience.
I know that reference.
Yes, I hope you do. Pitch meeting. Woo. Pick it up. Hello, Axel. Welcome back. We were just mocking you.
Okay, in that case, I think we can stop the recording.
We were just about to go through we've gone through the list. Is there anything more from this list that you feel like we've missed out, or do you think we've covered everything to do up till now in terms of the front end, Axel?
So no, the thing that I thought it was missing was filled by you. That was like what were the direct follow-up from our work on the dashboarding foundation MRs, and yeah, no, in fact I believe I'm even more clearer about our roadmap. So yeah, thank you for filling the details.
Cool. In that case, Jan, you said you wanted to stop the recording for us to go through the workflow board, whatever it's called, the board, jobs, work stuff. I should never be a host of anything.
Yeah, Axel, I think you need to stop it.